Hey guys, Tarke here. I want to show off the Quill Rain Precise Technique proof of concept now that I've gotten the Slayer into maps, and also talk about a new build project I'm going to be doing because I'm going to be using this build as the foundation for a future build in a follow-along SSF series for you to enjoy. So I wanted to see how good Quill Rain was with Precise Technique after I saw a couple of Precise Technique builds in Softcore Trade League. Now, I was like, well, maybe this is good. I've done some Quill Rain Bow stuff a long time ago. Ooh, nice big Harpy pack. And I wonder if you could still make that kind of a setup work now. And it turns out, yeah, you kind of can. Now, my gear is very minimal. We just got a Quill Rain. We've got some terrible Abyssals giving a little bit of flat LE damage, a tiny bit of flat LE damage on jewelry, and that's practically it. And with that, I've been able to, from a damage point of view, the defense of this character is atrocious, but from a damage point of view, I've been able to clear maps pretty comfortably. Like, I'm comfortable with the amount of damage I have, the amount of investment into the character, and I'm having done some experiments with swapping my gear onto my Deadeye, because I played a Deadeye Rupture build at the start of the league. I'm confident that if I sat on this build, I could min-max this to a point where it's like completely endgame viable, just using Quill Rain. Now, it doesn't mean that Quill Rain would beat out the ideal rare. Ideally, you would be looking for some, like, insane tri-LE Thicket, Grove Bow, or Sniper Bow if you went crit. And whether you go crit or non-crit, you can actually make decent, like, arguments for both in this setup. But anyway, I'm getting kind of ahead of myself. My point being is I've been pretty, like, impressed with just, like, the base performance of a Quill Rain and a little bit of flat elemental damage scaling. Now, a big part of this is because of a new mastery. This new mastery gives increases and reductions to projectile speed apply to bow applies to bow damage, and you kind of offset that big nasty 30% less damage on Quill Rain by leveraging the up to 100% increased damage it gives into like increased damage, and you get some increased projectile speed scaling on the skill tree, etc. So what my idea is, and I'll explain why, but my idea is to do a complete and utter fresh reset. Make a Deadeye, because having played around with a bunch of different setups, point blank, not point blank, blah, 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 blah. I don't like point blank gameplay. I really don't like it. Barrage gameplay, I'm okay with if you're doing fast shot. If you're not doing fast shot, I don't like barrage at all. It just doesn't cater to my playstyle at all. So that means you want to be doing Deadeye stuff. And some people are like, oh, Tarke, SSF reset. He said he does SSF resets and he stops playing the league. This is a bad sign. Usually when I do an SSF reset, it's because I'm bored of Path of Exile. I'm really enjoying Path of Exile right now. And the SSF reset is mostly just so I can reset my Atlas passive skill tree. Because I'm out of regrets and I'm making orbs. And for making a better YouTube series, because I can then do a step-by-step follow-along series. So this is my current Atlas skill tree, and you can see it's very much invested into the right-hand side, farming Eater of Worlds, getting a bunch of Harby stuff, getting a bunch of Expedition stuff, and the Atlas skill tree I would like to use is on the far left of the skill tree, focused on Searing Exarch. Because Omniscience Amulet comes from Searing Exarch, I want an Atlas tree focused around farming Searing Exarch, and you know what? I cannot really be bothered to farm up a million regrets. So with how quick Atlas progression is, I would actually rather just do a complete fresh restart, have a better follow-along series, level up a fresh Deadeye, and then get to do a fresh Atlas skill tree, which isn't having to be compromised by like a hasty respec. So I'll start off by showing what the new Atlas skill tree will look like. I'll then talk about some Path of Building stuff, and then kind of go into a little bit more details on how the series itself will function. So you can see it's kind of just like a mirror opposite of my current skill tree. You can see it'd be pretty heavy in terms of regrets. So the most important thing, obviously, is focusing on Searing Exarch, because we need to have Searing Exarch as our main Atlas dude until we drop the amulet. And the amulet only drops from him. We want to be focusing on him. Eater of Worlds is just better from a mapping point of view, because the Eater of Worlds Shrine node is superior, but the amulet doesn't drop from that, so oh well. Another thing which is neat about this is it lets me go pretty heavy into Alva investment early. Alva is an excellent source of very strong rares in SSF. And also, if I was ever going to get a bow that I would want to use instead of Quill Rain, it would most likely be a Alva bow because of the strength of the flat elemental damage rolls that you can get from there. Another thing which is quite good about it is you can get very good boots and very strong gloves. You get a lot of gloves which give massive chunks of flat elemental damage against either shocked, chilled, or burning enemies. Very good source of end-game weapons and armor from that point of view. And the other thing which is kind of neat about it is it's very easy to drop with no real investment and then splash into other nearby very strong nodes, which are things we eventually want to be chasing in SSF. We would eventually want to be chasing Cluster Jewels. We're immediately right next to all the Delirium Cluster Jewel stuff, so we can drop out of Alva, drop into that. We're right next to all the Einhaar stuff, which means that if we just, for a couple of points early, take Animal Companion, bank up a bunch of Einhaar missions, splash into the good Einhaar nodes, and that's how you get like split beast recipes, add prefix, remove suffix, etc. I used this methodology in my current Atlas skill tree, and I spec'd into Alva, and my plan was to save up like 30 Alva missions and then spec into Atlas. But I didn't take into account just how expensive it would be to swap from a right side tree to the left side tree, so it wasn't feasible. Whereas this is feasible because all the points I want to respec are right next to there, so I'm having to like respec my entire tree. It's just like drop 5 points, put 5 points in here, if that makes sense. The other thing which is quite neat about this tree is it lets me mess around with the first thing I was excited about when I saw the Atlas skill tree, which was Tormented Spirit quant stacking with Rogue Exiles. So I get to have a little bit of fun, and it was the main thing I wanted to test, and I didn't get to because I went far onto the right side of the passive skill tree. So that's that. The planned skill tree that I'm going to be going for this Deadeye. Again, Quill Rain Precise Technique. Not saying it's the best version, just I'm confident I could get this version to function. So this is a very basic path of building with just a Quill Rain, and I copied over my jewels that I had access to in SSF with the Dark System Throne, just so I could get an idea of some flat Ellie damage rolls. And against a boss with no like tomfoolery or anything, not like having maximum travel distance or anything like that, just setting my resonance stacks. This is a Trinity build. Pretty respectable 500k boss damage. That might seem very low. I've done a lot of bossing with much less than that. That is like the bare minimum for me to be like, I can kind of clear content. And yeah, I'm like feeling good about this. The other thing which is very neat about this as a long-term project is it's the kind of build that can be min-maxed almost infinitely. Bow builds scale so unbelievably strong, and it's a playstyle I really enjoy, and a playstyle I haven't played in a very long time. Just like the couple of days I've spent messing around with this Slayer has been so much fun, because Ellie attack bow builds used to be those used to be my builds. I used to only play these builds, and I haven't really played these in years, so I've been having a lot of fun messing around with this. So this is something that I could see myself spending weeks just doing little daily updates like, oh, we've crafted a new jewel. This is really fun and really exciting. So I'm very much looking forward to this. Let's go back into some of this stuff. There are a few key additions I would add to this build based on drops. Again, keep in mind, I find everything around the bare minimum viability in SSF. If I get my hands on a Lionized Jewel, incredibly strong here. You then get to convert Claw of the Magpie and backstabbing. I definitely go crit at that point. Very good Thread of Hope spot here. This is an amazing spot for an Unnatural Instinct as well, by the way. Someone sent me an Unnatural Instinct Kia on a Patreon review. I'm like, wow, that's such amazing value. Choice cost of jewel placement right here. Everything past Ghost Dance can be trimmed off, but I quite like Ghost Dance in this tree because using ES evasion gear, you get to get around the awkwardness of playing a lot of these ranger builds, which is having very low % life. Some people are happy running around with just 3k life. Me, I'm not happy just running around with 3k life. This tree with like actual gear with life rolls and everything is probably like 4.5k, maybe 5k with like really nice vermilion rings and stuff. But I feel pretty good running around with like 4.5k life and then like 1k energy shield. I'm basing a lot of like my defensive plans to this build on previous characters I played this league. So specifically my Corsair Trickster, which I felt very comfortable and actually surprisingly tanky on for all the endgame content. That build only had, as you'll see very shortly, if the game wants to load. Yeah, just sub 5k life and 1.2k energy shield. The main thing was just having the insane movement speed from the Queen of the Forest. And while we won't necessarily have a Queen of the Forest immediately, we'll have the Tailwind giving a lot of movement speed. And also, Blink Arrow is so good with Quill Rain, with the Blink Arrow Mastery. Like, it's instant. It's so good. God, these loading screens. You're gonna enjoy another loading screen in a second. Let's just run through here. So yeah, so I'm very confident in terms of the mobility. The raw EHP should be solid. We have very good flexibility in terms of auras. Like, look at that. That's no quality on this either, by the way. There's no like enhanced shenanigans. That's just like boom, instant travel. You can get some really nice enchants for it. There are some really interesting alt qualities. That's also another thing which makes doing this SSF reset much less frustrating than previous leagues, is I've done 0 heisting, I've done 0 delving. The only thing that I will really be losing is betrayal unlocks. Like, that's genuinely the only thing which is a little bit like, ugh. The Atlas progression is so smooth, I could have a fully unlocked Atlas in like 3 or 4 days on SSF. Like, no stress whatsoever. But yeah, I think you get the point. Blink Arrow feels nice. The new Atlas is just like... I cannot stress enough how much more enjoyable the new endgame is. But anyway, my point being is I'm not really losing that much from this reset. I'm also not even actually losing that much in terms of gear, because a lot of the really good gear I had wasn't really for this build, it was for other builds, and I can just put all of this into softcore trade. And if I decide that I want to go back to playing those builds, I could maybe min-max them in softcore trade, or I can just level them up fresh in my new SSF with a more optimal Atlas skill tree for what I want to do. So I'm not really losing anything in terms of that, so I'm not really concerned about that setback at all. I guess the only other question from this build people say is like, how do you feel about sustain? Because obviously, you know, you had the Slayer Leech. Obviously, that felt really nice. How are you going to make up for not having Slayer Leech? I feel really confident bossing with just replenishing remedies. I've done a lot of bossing with just Ghost Dance life pots, and replenishing remedies, especially when you combo with the Soul of Raslava Minor Pantheon, which doubles the life flask gain generation. Double life flask, Quicksilvers, and then a damage utility. Or even on my Corsair character for bossing, I ran double Quicksilver, Jade Flask, double Life Flask. I'm confident bossing with those kind of setups. So I'm not worried at all about sustain. We get the life gain on kill, which is really good for mapping. We also have some natural leech, so like we'll be healed up while we're playing all the content. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this a lot. So Lightning Arrow, Trinity, Mirage Archer, GMP Chain. Barrage most likely is my core single target setup. I did a bunch of research into different setups. I looked at a bunch of setups Havoc was doing when he was doing all of his bow testing for the league. Barrage seems to be the best single target main skill. If I didn't go for a straight barrage, it would be like a Siege Ballista barrage, which is what I was testing on my Slayer most recently, or a secondary Lightning Arrow barrage. I've tested a few different setups. I would be confident running Grace, Period of Elements, Hard Vice Precision initially. When I got total chance to avoid ailments across all my gear, I would then drop the Period of Elements. If I wanted more defense, I'd run Determination. Otherwise, I'd run something like Anger or Wrath. Hydrosphere, Tornado, probably in a focus helmet. So I focused, I instantly get out my utility. Also, I did a bunch of testing with neither Hydrosphere or Tornado to see how it feels. It feels fine. Sniper's Mark on just a mark on hit feels fine initially. Probably going to be using a Wrath or Anger Divine Blessing Life Tap. Neither of these are enabled for this POB. Shoots the numbers up a lot, obviously. And that gives one open link for just a Blink Arrow. So that covers all my core utility stuff, my damage stuff, and everything comfortably. If I decide not to go for the Divine Blessing Life Tap setup, then that gives me more links to play with for stuff like Steel Skin, or just more support links on the Blink Arrow. But yeah, so that's my core plans. So tomorrow's SSF update will be a fresh SSF series. Maybe like build a bow or something, I don't know. Give me a good title suggestion for what the new bow series will be. And yeah, the only items we need are a guaranteed boss drop, which we can have a whole Atlas focused around, And then a Quill Rain, which isn't mandatory, we can use a rare bow instead. And Quill Rains we can force very easily through Unique's Arch Nemesis on a low-level character. Very much looking forward to this. Should be a lot of fun. And I'll leave links to everything down below. The links to the Atlas Pass of Skill Tree, links to the planned path of building. If you started leveling a Slayer, don't be like, oh, Slayer's terrible. It's really good, it works. If you look into Pee-wee Ninja setup for Slayer bow builds, there's a few people farming the endgame in trade leagues using Doomfletch Prisms. Doomfletch Prism is also another very strong option, using the same kind of like methodology. And yeah, really looking forward to this. Should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to just messing around with a lot of Ellie attack bow builds again. And hopefully I can make up for the shortness of the bow bleed rupture Deadeye league setup. Yes, I'm Tarke. Have a good day. Let me know if you've got any fun suggestions for this series. By the way, bye-bye.